Well, good morning. This morning we read Esther chapter 3 through to chapter 5. In this we see Haman plotting to destroy the Jews. Very interesting. Mordecai refuses to stand and honour Haman in defiance of the king's order. The Bible isn't really clear why Mordecai did that. It seems, reading the text, reading between the lines, that Mordecai recognized that Haman was not an appropriate person to receive such an honor and refused to give it to him in defiance of the king's order. There's a challenge for us. When do we refuse to honor those who our society honors? Mordecai's behavior sparked a terrible racism in Haman. Not only did he want to punish Mordecai, but all the people of the same race. How often do we have the same kind of thoughts? When someone does something against us, how do we then avoid attributing such behavior to everyone of the same race? People are individuals. This was Mordecai's own decision. Yet Haman decided to punish all the Jews. So, are we sometimes guilty of the same attitude? Then we go into Mordecai persuades Esther to help. He begins to fast and to pray, and when Esther hears about it, she goes out to find out what's wrong, or in fact sends a eunuch out to find out exactly what's wrong. And at first she said, well, there's not a lot I can do about this because I can't go into the king's presence. And then comes back the most famous verse, in fact, probably the only verse that people can recite by heart from the entire book of Esther. Maybe you came into the kingdom for such a time as this, or maybe you have come into your royal position for such a time as this. And that phrase, for such a time as this, is often used. It's become part of our church language. Maybe we are in the position we're in for such a time as this. This was certainly true of Esther. She had been placed in the king's court for this particular time. And having prayed and fasted, she then went into the king's presence, a great risk, because only those invited could come into the king's presence. If you walk in to the king's presence without an invitation, he could have you killed. In fact, that was his normal practice, except if he extended his scepter to you and granted your request to be present and your request. And Esther prays, fasts, and goes into the king's presence, and the king receives her, an answer to prayer. She now has the king's ear. And she doesn't come straight out with her request, but she brings Haman and the king together into a banqueting hall and feeds them and gives them a banquet. I wonder if she hoped that Haman, seeing her kindness, would be changed and transformed. He could have at any time rescinded his order, but he didn't. He was still determined to put to death all of the Jews. And so Esther begins the process of reversing this order. Haman is still angry with Mordecai. Even after all the honors he's received, he can't put aside this one item of criticism. And again, how often are we like Haman? We receive lots of people telling us well done. But if one person criticizes, that affects our ego and our pride more than all of the praise that others give us. And so Haman is still determined to destroy the Jewish people. And we'll see what happens as we continue reading through this in our morning readings.